And good morning to the viewers at home that are going to be watching this on YouTube. My name is Cleopatra Mohoa, and I'm a SABWiL alumni. And today we are talking about the 5th annual SABWiL Human Rights that occurred on the 11th of December 2020. This moot was held virtually because of the COVID-19 pandemic over Zoom platform. And for SABWiL, it was the first of its kind because we usually have our moot competitions live with us there, with the participants and our justices. And having said that, I'm joined by our esteemed justices during the moot court. We have Advocate Bava SC, who was our Chief Justice, and Attorney Musa, who is our Deputy Chief Justice, and Advocate Nobahle Raji, who was also our third Justice. And good morning.
Good morning, Cleopatra.
And first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for joining us, because I know that as legal practitioners, and I say that with seriousness, because you guys are not just legal practitioners, you are like up there. But I know that you have very busy schedules, and during this time of the year, this is normally when you are wrapping up your businesses as well, because it's the end of the year and it's probably most hectic. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time out to just make time to come and do this. Not just this interview, but the moot court itself, which was hectic. So thank you so much. We appreciate you very, very much.
You're most welcome.
I'm not even going to waste time. Let's get right into it. Let's start with you, Advocate Bava. This was the first, for SABWiL, that is, it was the first moot court that we held virtually because of the COVID pandemic. For you, how was the experience, being the Chief Justice of a virtual moot?
Okay, so this was my second participation in the moot courts. My first participation was many years ago, where I assisted but did not sit as a presiding officer. I assisted in the presentations and preparation. To me, the virtual court has become a reality in our current situation, and I think it's going to persist going forward. It is a very convenient mode of communicating. At the end of the day, the aspect relating to communications via video conferencing or being in court is ultimately the ability to communicate. So currently we need to adapt, and this is crucial in that if we are to adapt, and if we are to adapt going forward, the main element and the main or most important aspect is whether the presentation to a court is compromised by video conferencing. Video conferencing has got its advantages and it's got its disadvantages. Obviously, in this here in the SABWiL moot court, I thought it went particularly well. I was very impressed with, well, firstly, the participants. Secondly, that we were able to communicate at a level which, even if we were present in the same room, we most probably would have had an identical experience. So to me, it was a huge success. And I think going forward, I wouldn't hesitate in suggesting that other moot courts, where necessary, could be held via video conferencing. It was an absolute hit as far as I'm concerned.
And let me take this to you, Attorney Musa. Did you encounter any specific challenges that you perhaps feel that were related to this being a virtual moot, as opposed to you being there physically with the participants under normal circumstances where you can see them? And
well, I completely associate myself with Advocate Bava's analysis of the virtual courts, and I thought it was a wonderful experience, and I think it gave the participants a wonderful platform to find their feet in moot court. But I'm a little old-fashioned in that way, and I do believe that you know, there's a bit of a nuance that one gets when you are looking at a person face to face, and I hope that these participants get another opportunity to do it face to face, because the nuances are slightly lost. The personal interaction between justices and the advocates, that there's something slightly lost with the virtual courts. That's my opinion.
And Advocate Nobahle Raji, and your experience on this virtual experience, this climate that we find ourselves in because of COVID.
Thank you, Cleopatra. I could not agree more with my fellow justices. We find ourselves having to adapt to this world of technology. Connection is generally the biggest problem, because you find that as ready as you are, when it's time to connect, something goes wrong. And I try and prepare as much as possible, or sometimes the internet goes off, or as it happened in one of the matters that I was party to, is that then they decided to do an upgrade on the network just as I was about to go into court. So now I had to have a backup and a backup plan to make sure that if I get cut off during the arguments, what else can I quickly connect into? So it is a bit of a challenge. However, we have to adapt as human beings, and I suppose this is one of the things that that we have to do. But I also agree mostly with Deputy Chief Justice Musa, that there's nothing beats human interaction. There is a feel. As much as we enjoy virtual courts, one misses that court feeling, the sense of being tense, your colleagues as they're waiting together to move your matters, the quick checking. There are certain things that you can't get from moot court. However, this is the world that we live in, and adapt we shall.
Okay, and while I still have you there, when it came to the actual judgment, the decision of the justices was unanimous. Actually, I think it took you guys all of 5 minutes to deliberate. What motivated this decision?
I believe that we all were in agreement that the level of participation, the delivery, the preparation that the participants had engaged in justified the decision. Once I'm on that, I must say that this was my first moot court, and I was hugely impressed by the level of expertise. I certainly at their level was not at the level that they were at. So I definitely do think that this is a great platform with great advantages, and it will help them going forward just to prepare. It's not waiting until one has passed the bar exam or the attorney's exam before you figure out what to do in court. At least you've got a sense of the types of questions, the level of difficulty, but mostly the preparation that is required prior to one appearing in court.
Advocate Bava, back to you. What was the absolute highlight for you during the moot, the entire moot?
Well, I think the highlight was being called upon to try and to assist with my fellow justices in trying to assess the abilities of individuals to present a legal argument premised on a very factual scenario. And to me, that was an area where we could look at different skill sets that were being presented to us, that different assessments that we had to make, and how we as lawyers could add value to individuals who are climbing the ladder of success at this stage, in terms of debating and arguing propositions that are of a legal nature and that will be arguments that they will raise in courts once they become lawyers and practitioners. So to me, that was a fundamental aspect where we could interact with people who, you know, I always say that, for example, when you walk into a gym or when you walk into a court, there is a very palpable sense of achievement, of people wanting to achieve, people striving to give their best. And when you're in an environment where people are striving to give their best, you want to be there because there is a creative element, there is a creative environment where you step into. And with that, not only do you flourish, but you see other people flourishing. And this creation of an environment and entering into an environment where there is this need and want to actually perform at your highest is, I think, a highlight for me in any given circumstance, and particularly in this one.
Did you have any frustrations at all? I mean, whether based on network issues or participants themselves? Did you have anything there that made you feel frustrated in any way?
Not in this. There are instances where there were, but in this instance, it all flowed very, very seamlessly. We did not have any problems, and I think that was, well, at a stage I froze. It was right at the beginning. Something happened on my computer, and I was sitting there for 20 minutes before. And remember, you walked in and you said you want to have things done on time because you are time person, and I had been on there speaking with Tasneem for about 20 minutes before that, and at the time we were going to launch, my computer froze, and I just didn't know. So that was a bit of a frustration because I'm also a person who's a clock watcher.
And Attorney Musa, our Deputy Chief Justice, I just want to throw this one your way. How did you feel about the performance of the participants? Did you have anyone that frustrated you a bit when you were asking questions? Did you at any point feel like pulling out your own hair, like, hey, this is what I want to know, and you're not answering me? Like any...
You know, the way I approached the whole moot court was, the intention wasn't to catch anybody out. It's supposed to be a mentoring and a learning process. Mm-hmm. So when the participants were speaking, I was just so amazed. I was more amazed. I didn't have time to be angry at anybody. I didn't want to be, because I was so amazed at the quality and the tenacity, the preparation that went in with such young, inexperienced people. I mean, I remember myself 20, 30 years ago, when I started out, I had none of that confidence. You know, I mean, they withstood the kind of questioning that we threw at them, and I was just blown away. There was nothing that I could say that frustrated me in any way.
Advocate Novahle, are you still with us?
I am certainly with you.
Good, because I have a question for you, ma'am. So I need to know. Obviously, you've read the heads of arguments. You've listened to the oral submissions and all that. So I need to know. First, let's start with the heads of arguments. Which ones impressed you the most? And then, in terms of oral arguments, who impressed you the most and why? And I'm asking this because I feel that it's a learning platform for law students. And if we go back and we watch that video and you've highlighted who impressed you and why, I'm going to view it with a different eye now when I go back to it, like, oh, so this is what he did right or she did right and so forth, or what impressed the judges and so forth. And your...
to be honest with you, Cleopatra, a lot of effort went into all the preparations of the heads of arguments and also on the delivery of the arguments by all the participants. And kudos to all the participants for that. That said, I can say that the first respondents' heads of arguments were head and above shoulders in terms of the level of detail, but not just the detail, the structure, in that it was easy to follow. So that for me stood out, and also the respondents' delivery was also, I suppose it's guided by the heads, because if your heads are well structured and they are well drafted, it helps in the delivery of your argument. So I'd couple that in and say that team for me did very well. That said, I also understand that the level of nervousness when you have to appear before not just one justice, but 3 justices who are practitioners, that is quite difficult. So I understand the level of nervousness that might have been there by some of the participants, and where some of the participants got stuck in some of the questions that they needed to answer, and they felt that they were a bit on the tough side.
What makes a good counsel, or rather, what is, in your opinion, what's that difference between a good counsel and a bad counsel?
I cannot say about the bad counsel, but to make a good counsel, I'd say preparation. However, that said, as much as you prepare, there is always that curve that just comes out of nowhere, where you have to now think on your feet and see how you can handle that curve. So mine would say that it's definitely preparation. I find, for example, what one finds is that the more prepared you are, the more confident you tend to be, and the less nervous you tend to be, because you've tried to look at as many scenarios as possible. So if any one of those scenarios come up, you find that at least you've thought about it. It's something that you've as I've said, it's something that you've contemplated. But as I said, as well prepared as one can be, there's always that one curve that will come out, which makes you think on your feet.
Sure. Okay. No, I'm taking notes as I'm listening to all of you and I'm busy making notes. Hey, 4th level is tough. So I'm busy jotting these things down. Like Advocate Bava, from the conversations that we've had, you are very passionate about plowing back. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that as far as law students are concerned?
Yes, I thank you for that, Cleopatra. I think all of us, all the justices, yourself included, we in an environment where I think we want to see people excel, and we want to see people other than ourselves excel. And the idea is always that you don't only give, but in giving you receive. This is the most important thing. In giving you receive. And when you go out and you say to somebody, I have got certain skills in life, but I would like to see you take these skills, use them, and become better than me. And at the end of the day, thrive or strive to become a practitioner that we can that others can look up to. So, it's always this concept when I've always looked at aspects. People come from different walks of life and different environments. People come from villages, people come from small towns, people come from cities, people come from townships, people come from rich homes, whatever. The environment from which they come does not dictate the level of enthusiasm. So just because you come from a rich environment doesn't mean that the people will be more enthusiastic than if you come from a lower income area. So when you go and you try and assist somebody, you plow back, as your words indicate, you give that person some sort of a mirror against which that person can look at and go back and say, you know what, I'm creating an environment that will not only help me in good stead, but will help people around me, my siblings, my environment, my friends, my communities. in growing. And when we plant those seeds of growth amongst people, we start creating a better generation of people, a better generation of practitioners, a better generation that when you walk into courts, you have got a decorum and a professionalism that you can be proud of. But if you sit back and you do nothing about it, and then you complain about, look at the standards going down. And I'm not saying that we are upholding standards. What we are doing is, to the best of our abilities, is trying to contribute what we see as positive elements, as elements of growth that we can contribute to. So in that environment, you create a fundamentally new aspect within an individual. And that aspect, that person is able to explore, and not only explore for themselves, but just by carrying it out, they pass that on. Because remember, they are observers as well. So if you sit in court, and that is one of the other advantages of going to court with the fellow justices, is that you would be sitting in court and watching a person demonstrate their skills in front of a judge. And from there, you get to learn. So if we have a part in enhancing the skill of an individual or individuals, and they are demonstrating these skills in court, the judges get to expect that sort of level. The people who are observing them get to see that that is the level at which we ought to be. And we generally create a better human environment for all of us, and a professional environment. So to me, it's exploring, and like we say, it's a two-way street. We learn as well, and not only the person who is a participant or demonstrating as a lawyer, but we as justices learn as well, or presiding officers. And in that interaction of growth, you know, I like the saying which says that when you put two minds together in dealing with an issue, you create a third mind. And that is fundamental, is that when you put two ideas and you start molding a different scenario of excellence, you start creating that third mind. And that third mind is one that starts guiding a new, towards a new level. So to me, it's always exciting.
Thank you for that. And Deputy Chief Justice, don't worry, we're almost there. I just want to know from you, you touched on something about the confidence that the participants had, in your view. You know, they looked confident, they had done the work. How important is mooting to you? What would you say to a law student that's sitting out there and is watching this and is thinking, shoo, I couldn't do that. What, any words of wisdom there on the importance of mooting? On what would you say to law students regarding mooting?
You know, there's a saying that I like, and it says that the harder you work, the luckier you get. And the more practice you have, the better you get at it. So mooting is imperative, because you get to practice your craft in an environment that's not adversarial, that's not built with angst, and you can do that in a comfortable kind of a way and learn the tricks of the trade, so to speak. So when you get to do this in real life, you've had the experience, you understand the mechanisms, you understand the procedure, and you are better prepared for the real life action.
Okay. And Advocate Raj, any words of wisdom for aspiring legal practitioners out there?
Keep on practicing. If you have an opportunity, do go to courts just to observe how practitioners, of course, after lockdown, practice. It helps a lot. And also nothing beats, as I said, hard work. Research, put your head in there and believe that you can do it. And you will.
Wow, I am totally inspired. I'm inspired, and yeah, can the next semester begin now? Whew. Thank you so very much for joining us and for letting me pick your brains and put you on the spot and well, ask you questions that I wanted to know. And I'm hoping that everybody else out there is not going to think I'm selfish. But thank you so very much. We appreciate you. And I hope we are going to see you again during the next SABWiL Human Rights Court moot. So no one is running away from us.
Thank you. We look forward to that.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
We will. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.